Hello, everyone. I am AJ Hikes. I am your Deputy Executive Director for Strategy and Culture at the ACLU, and it is so good to be back with our community for today's town hall. Thank you so much for joining. We have a very special treat for our ACLU fam today. I am truly honored to have Senator Cory Booker joining us for the town hall today. There he is. Hi there, Senator Booker. Oh, it's so good to see you. Of course, Senator Booker needs no introduction, but you all remember how he captured national attention earlier this year with a record-breaking 25-hour and 5-minute speech on the Senate floor, a signal to all of us that it is going to take resilience, determination, and a whole lot of stamina to fight this administration's anti-civil liberties agenda. But we are ready and we are not backing down. Senator Booker, we are going to turn to you and our ACLU President Deborah Archer in about 13 minutes. So please sit tight, but we are so glad that you are here. First, we've got some business to attend to with this critical mass of ACLU members, activists, and volunteers who are joining us here today. Y'all know that I'm an organizer, so anytime we gather, I'm going to make good use of your time and put you to work because we got a job to do. So we are going to dedicate some time at the top here for four important items. First, we're going to provide some insights into the first 4 months of the Trump administration and some of the life-saving work that you all have made possible. Second, we are going to share some information about the ACLU's People Power Activist Network. If you haven't joined already, my friends, you need to. Whenever I'm out and about, y'all are always asking, where can I get involved? If the ACLU needs any help, just let me know. How can I volunteer? Where are we mobilizing? We got you. This is the network. The third thing is we're going to create space for our immigrants' rights expert and MSNBC mainstay, Legal Alert. He's going to give us the latest and the greatest. And then, of course, we're going to dive into our featured conversation featuring Senator Booker and President Archer on the path forward. So let's start first with the insights. My friends, 4 months and a day. That's how far along we are into this administration and its relentless attacks on our freedoms and communities that we hold dear. 4 months and a day. That's one set of numbers, but I'm going to lift up some numbers that I'm really proud of, and you should be too. 550 ACLU attorneys who are working around the clock. 1,650 other ACLU staffers nationwide in all 50 states, DC, and Puerto Rico. Those folks are buoyed by tens of thousands of you who have already taken action and already volunteered. You volunteered to defend birthright citizenship, which is, of course, a bedrock right since Reconstruction, to defend our immigrant communities, to defend the trans and non-binary community and our access to health care, to defend DEI initiatives, the First Amendment, and so much more. We said it after the election. We will say it again and again and again. We are the American Civil Liberties Union, and we ain't moving to Canada. We are staying right here, and we are getting the job done. And in the past 4 months and a day, that's exactly what we've done. We've stayed right here, and we have filed more than 110 legal actions, including over 50 lawsuits. And we've secured dozens of wins already, and y'all, we are just getting started. Here's a quick snapshot of the ACLU's work that you are fueling.
On day one, the ACLU jumped into action to protect everyone's rights and freedoms from Donald Trump's agenda. The ACLU has already filed more than 100 legal actions against Trump's unconstitutional and dangerous policies.
We started out with a lawsuit within 2 hours of that executive order.
There is no way now to apply for asylum. That is patently unlawful.
We're suing President Trump over his executive orders attempting to ban gender-affirming medical care for transgender people under 19.
The Department of Education threatens schools what it called DEI practices, just labeling anything that they don't like as DEI and unlawful. Our lawsuit is challenging the threats that it imposed that it would start stripping federal funding.
The other 2 lawsuits we filed this week having to do with fast-track deportations, they can't just cut the corners around the statutes.
Every day, the ACLU is in court defending people targeted by this administration. We're pushing our representatives in Congress to do their job.
We have turned out thousands to the Know Your Rights trainings, the town halls, the rallies.
And we're on the ground, making sure all of us know our rights and make our voices heard.
The First Amendment protects Mr. Khalil's right, all of our rights, to say what we believe.
This is not Trump's America. This is not Project 2025's America. This is our America.
We are the ACLU, and we're not going anywhere.
President Trump will see you in court.
Doesn't that video fill you with so much pride, my friends? I'm fired up, and I am so proud to be a part of this ACLU community that is fearless in the face of the Trump administration. And you, my friends, are a part of this superhero team. We're like the damn civil liberties Avengers out here. And I know y'all have likely heard me say this before. The devil works hard, but baby, the ACLU works harder. And that is definitely the truth. But I do want to note something that's very important. Success today might not always come with a victory. We got to be honest about that. In this environment, it's not just simply about wins or losses. It's about holding the line and making progress whenever and wherever we can. This ain't Trump's America, it's our America, and we're not going anywhere. So, like I mentioned earlier, y'all are always asking what you can do, how we're mobilizing, how you can volunteer, and I got you. We need your help, so I would love to invite Maribel Hernández Rivera, the ACLU's National Director of Immigrant Community Strategies, to share how you can roll up your sleeves with us. Maribel, are you here?
I am here, AJ. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you all for being here. And yes, I'm here to tell you what you can do to support the ACLU, to support the movement. So number one, AJ talked about people power. What is people power? Well, people power is the ACLU's platform for grassroots action. Our volunteers through people power, they make phone calls, they send texts, they write letters. So all of you, since day one, we've been showing up. And to our People Power members watching today, thank you. Thank you because you have been showing up again and again and again. I have to tell you, my family is directly impacted by the immigration policies of this administration. When I was an undocumented teenager, I had no idea that people cared. But now here at the ACLU, working in community with our People Power volunteers, I know that we're not alone. I know that we have each other's back. Thank you for being there with us. Now, for those of you who haven't signed up, this is your moment. This is your opportunity. How do you do so, you ask? Easily. Go to aclu.org/volunteer. aclu.org/volunteer. You will then get an email on how you can help us in whichever way is more comfortable for you. Now, this is important because together we will show that the people in power, that they might have power, but the people have more power. We together have more power. Like we say in Spanish, el pueblo unido jamás será vencido. The people united will never be defeated. I also want to invite you to join us in the streets. Now, we as a community showed up for the hands-off mobilizations. We showed up for May Day. There's a new mobilization happening. The No Kings Rally is happening June 14. Come join us. Come raise your voices. And now, as the ACLU, we want to make sure that you have the tools and the information needed to both protect yourself and protect each other as a community. So we're going to have 2 Know Your Rights trainings. We will have one in English and one completely in Spanish on June 10th. To sign up for our Know Your Rights trainings, go to aclu.org/KYR training. aclu.org/KYR training. During our trainings, we will be going over our constitutional right to protest. And let me be clear, the Constitution protects everybody, undocumented or not, citizen or not. We are all protected under the Constitution. During the training, we will also go over our rights when interacting with law enforcement, and we will be going over best practices on how to protect each other. So on that, I want to end again by thanking you for being here. Thank you for showing up for me, for my family, for people who are impacted, and please come join us. Thank you, AJ. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Maribel. Thank you for your beautiful words. Thank you for telling us more about your story, and of course for that rallying cry. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. I think I got that. The people united will never be defeated, not on our watch. Thank you, Maribel. Now let's turn to agenda item number 3 and another rallying cry. We'll see you in court. I want to welcome our Deputy Director of the ACLU's Immigrants' Rights Project, Lee Gallant. Lee is going to talk to us about some of the cruel and illegal efforts to enforce compliance through fear, coercion, and censorship. Thank you so much for being here, Lee.
Thanks, AJ, and thanks to everyone who's joining, and obviously, especially to Senator Booker for lending his time and support. I've been doing this work a long time at the ACLU, and during the first Trump administration, I saw what I think was the worst policy I've ever seen, which was taking little babies away from their parents at the border. That still remains the worst thing I have ever seen. But I would say that this administration now, this second term, is far worse because it's constant onslaught. It's one policy after another. And even if no one policy is worse than family separation, the cumulative effect is worse. It's just day after day, an onslaught attacking constitutional rights, basic fundamental rights that we would never have thought any president and any administration would just simply discard. So let me give you some examples. One is the use of this wartime authority from 1798 called the Alien Enemies Act. It's only been used 3 times in our country's history, all during declared wars. It's supposed to only be used during wars to remove enemy aliens without any due process. The last time was World War II, and it was used infamously against Japanese non-citizens to intern them. The Trump administration now is trying to use it against Venezuelans and taking them secretly, hurrying them off to a secret prison in El Salvador, perhaps for the rest of their lives, with zero due process. We have now been up to the Supreme Court twice. Both times the Supreme Court has slapped down the administration saying, you can't hurry people out of this country without due process. Due process protects us all. It is fundamental. And courts around the country, no matter who the judge was appointed by, have said this administration needs to respect those fundamental principles. So we are trying to stop any more removals under this wartime authority, but we're also trying to get the men back who are sitting in this Salvadoran prison, again, perhaps for the rest of their lives, incommunicado. The administration is saying we won't bring them back. We are going to try and get them back, because there are men sitting in that facility who had no time to contest that they were gang members. The administration is claiming they're the worst of the worst. We know from the evidence coming out that these people had no connection to any gang whatsoever. The administration is walking around saying, well, if you have a tattoo, that could be evidence of gang membership. That is not due process in this country. The other case that I want to mention is the fundamental assault on the First Amendment. You are seeing students picked up often by masked guards without identifying themselves and hurried off to a detention center in Louisiana, even though they're in this country legally. And the only thing that the administration is claiming they've done is protest. One of our clients, a student at Tufts University, simply wrote an op-ed in the newspaper taking a position on the Israeli-Gaza conflict. That is First Amendment protected activity, yet she found herself in detention, as are other Columbia students and other people finding themselves in detention purely for First Amendment rights. So we have come to try and get them out of detention, bring these lawsuits, and say we will not allow anybody to be removed based on their First Amendment rights. And it just goes down the line. And one of the fundamental overarching points about what the administration is doing is, even when we win in court, they are not adhering to those rulings. So you see case after case where judges are saying, we're going to think about criminal contempt. And in one of our cases already, the judge has found probable cause for criminal contempt against the administration. So this needs to be, as AJ said, this is a lot about stamina. It takes a lot of strategy and a lot of thinking, but ultimately it's about stamina, and we're there to keep filing lawsuit after lawsuit. We are in dozens of courts around the country, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you so much for lifting up that work, Lee. This is exactly what the ACLU was built for, and we will never stop defending our constitutional rights. Now, my friends, your support and your commitment gives us the resources we need to stay strong and to respond swiftly whenever the need arises. So I want to give a special shout out to our Guardians of Liberties who support the ACLU with a monthly gift. For those of you who are tuning in who may not be a monthly donor yet, this is the time. It is one of the most impactful ways that you can defend civil liberties today and for the road ahead. So please go to aclu.org /go monthly to start a monthly gift. This is a way you can say, not on our watch. Thank you so much to our Guardians of Liberty. And now, my friends, that is our quick download on litigation, advocacy, and the role that we play. Thank you for giving us that space. And now we are at the main event. And for this portion, I've invited New Jersey's own, and Jersey, I know how y'all love to represent, so I can already feel you popping off, the Executive Director of the ACLU of New Jersey, Amol Sinha, and to do the honors and introduce our keynote speakers. Amol, over to you.
Thank you so much, AJ. I have the great privilege of introducing our main event. But first, I wanted to provide some thoughts from where I sit here in the heart of Newark. The Trump administration has targeted all of us, and New Jersey is no exception. ICE has opened the biggest detention facility on the East Coast right here in Newark. And so we've become a hub for the Trump administration's anti-immigrant agenda. And he's delivered on his promise of targeting leaders who disagree with him by arresting and charging elected officials from New Jersey. So we're ground zero for the fight for immigrants' rights and for the assault on checks and balances and the rule of law. But we're ready for it. We are also the epicenter for defending and expanding our rights. This isn't about politics. It's about patriotism. I was at a rally recently and a young person shouted out, "Where are our heroes?" It's time for heroes, like all of you, patriots who refuse to allow democracy to be eroded. It's time for heroes like my dear friend, Senator Cory Booker, who leads with principle and purpose and never sacrifices his compassion or his kindness or his good humor. As the mayor of Newark and in the Senate, he's led on addressing deep-rooted inequalities and essential reforms on justice, on democracy, and so much more. It's also time for heroes like Deborah Archer, the board president of the ACLU, who leads with vision and values and an unwavering commitment to supporting ACLU affiliates, including mine. She's an expert on civil rights and racial justice and a professor and associate dean at NYU Law. She's also the author of a groundbreaking new book called Dividing Lines: How Transportation Infrastructure Reinforces Racial Inequality. I'm so proud to call Cory Booker my senator, and I'm proud to call Deborah Archer our national ACLU president. Deborah, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amol, for that introduction and for joining us and really for the incredible work that you are doing in New Jersey. And thank you, AJ, Maribel, and Lee, again, for your tireless work, for providing that snapshot of the ACLU's truly round-the-clock efforts to hold the line in court, in legislatures, and in communities around the country. Senator Booker, I'm sure you see why I'm so proud to be an ACLU Guardian of Liberty and to serve as the president of this great organization, especially at this moment in time. Thank you so much for joining us.
I just want to let everybody know we are old friends going back to the 90s, and you have been a champion for justice and righteousness. In fact, you and your husband, who was both my classmates in law school, have lived your lives with such a fiercely strong moral compass and such a conviction and commitment to making a difference in the lives of others. So I'm just grateful to be on with you.
Thank you. You've been a role model for both of us. So we're grateful that you're here to talk with us today and to talk about the moment that we're in. And I know you well, and I know that protest is deep in your heart, and I want to start with protest. I think every major leap toward justice in this country has been sparked or supported by protest. Change really has never come from silence. Protest is often how we shift the terms of the debate, challenge the status quo, and really force the world to reckon with what it rather would ignore. And when paired with strategy, political strategy, legal strategy, organizing strategy, ultimately opinions can change, behavior can change, and the law can change. And if anything, the history of the project of perfecting our democracy cannot be told without telling the history of organized protest. But right now, I see in the world today some skepticism about the role of protest in this moment. You received a lot of praise and plaudits about your record 25 hours and 5 minutes speech on the Senate floor. But of course, there were some folks who were skeptical, concerned about what it and other acts of protest could accomplish during this time. Then during your speech, you said that this is a moral moment. And you said it's not about left or right, it's about right and wrong. I'm sure that ACLU members and others who take actions with us feel that deeply in their bones that we're on the right side of history when we stand up for civil rights and stand up for civil liberties. But we're seeing efforts to silence opposition, to silence protest. And just this week, a U.S. Representative McIver, was charged by the Department of Justice. So I think one of the big questions in front of all of us is, how do we meet this moral moment? What's your message to everyone who's joining us today about how we can all rise to the challenge in front of us and make a difference?
I really appreciate that. And I'm just grateful to be here just celebrating the ACLU and their long tradition of not being silent in the face of erosions to our democracy, assaults on our democracy, assaults on individual rights and freedoms, assaults on our shared values. And the activism and the engagement of the ACLU, to me, is an example of what happens when we organize, when we combine and share our resources, when we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. But I think specifically to your point about protests, for me, we went to the floor for 25 hours, and I say we because my team and I prepared for a long time because of the residents in my state that were not accepting the level of commitment that I was putting forward. They were saying, you should do more. You've got to do more. And I still remember telling folks, well, I'm in the minority. I'm not sure what else we can do. We're doing this and doing this, doing this. And, folks heard that as an excuse or said that we weren't meeting this moment, that we had to, they were demanding that we had to step up more. And I remember when somebody joked with me and said, are you an American or Americant? And I was like, okay. And then interestingly, and Amal knows some of my history, when I'm back in Newark, those folks, my community knows me since I had hair. And some of them were like, where's the guy I knew from Newark that did a 10-day hunger strike in the projects? Where's the guy I knew from Newark that lived in a mobile home and parked it on the toughest corners trying to bring attention to what was going on? We want that kind of leader. And so we came together as a staff, really anguished over what was going on and tried to get creative, try to use our moral imagination about what could we do to show the proper level of outrage, to try to be an ignition point for other people's activism. And so that's why we started to change our tactics from sit-ins on the Capitol steps to the 24-hour protest to even me flying around the country now, going to Republican districts from Tennessee all the way out to Arizona and doing things differently. And so all I want to say to folks listening is this is one of those moments in our country where so much is going on and going wrong with a president that is trampling on our fundamental rights, where there's assaults on the Constitution, when you have to ask yourself not what are others doing or what is he doing, but the question is what more could I be doing in this moral moment?
Yeah. I love that at the core of your message is that we all have power. And when they try to silence us, the most important thing we can do is raise our voice and pull on every lever that we've got. We have more tools than we believe we do. And Dissent is Patriotic is on many t-shirts and mugs and stickers at the ACLU. And I am forever drawn to the famous James Baldwin quote, I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. And so let's talk a bit about that, about the ability to criticize this country, to speak truth to power in the First Amendment. I've not seen in my lifetime an administration or a president with such blatantly hostile views towards the First Amendment. This administration is clearly trying to shut down any power center that might hold them in check, universities, free press, the legal profession, individuals speaking up. And many institutions are standing up. But to the alarm of many of us, some of what we thought were America's strongest institutions, including those that we expected to stand up for their First Amendment rights, are failing to fight back. So what do you make of all of this? And in this environment, how do you think we protect our right to speak, to protest, to publish, to learn, and to dissent?
I never imagined that we'd be at a point in my lifetime, after all the struggles and all the fights of our ancestors, that we would be at a point where we would have a leader who is openly attacking so many of the things that many of us probably took for granted. That literally I've been told in some universities, in orientations, they're telling students, be careful what you post online, be careful what you say. That is in institutions of higher learning, that the very idea of them as academic freedom is freedom of speech. I never thought I would see corporations or law firms being called to heel and threatened in the way that they're being threatened, or entire universities, or people that are here that have due process rights, seeing them disappeared off sidewalks. I never thought that I'd see nonprofits being targeted. I have a mutual friend of ours from law school who runs a nonprofit in New York, told me he was called, that his nonprofit was called up and told they were going to have to answer to the Doge team until it was pointed out that they take no federal money. They are trying to make us afraid. They're trying to intimidate. They're trying to overwhelm. And I think Jefferson said it well. When people are afraid of their government, there's tyranny. When the government is afraid of the people, there's liberty. And that's why right now we have to remind this government that the power of the people is greater than the people in power. Only if we use our power. And our power right now is the power to protest, to speak up, to petition our government. I know we made change in the past, and I'm not talking about my parents' generation and the generation before that. I know how we stopped healthcare in 2017 from being taken away from millions of Americans. I wish it was the eloquence of me and my fellow senators that convinced John McCain to vote no on the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. It wasn't. It was actually people who understood their power and their obligation to use it that were lobbying, protesting. I still remember these amazing, beautiful children with disabilities that called themselves the little lobbyists, who rolled here in their wheelchairs, going right up to United States senators and congresspeople and speaking truth to power with compassion in their heart, anguish over what was imminent, and demanding that they be heard. This is what we need to do right now, because what we're seeing is the more they get away with, the more they try to get away with. And this is going to continue happening. As Frederick Douglass said, the limits of tyranny are prescribed by the endurance of those who are oppressed. We should not be enduring what we're enduring already. And we have to show that we're not going to take this, and we're going to take action.
So we're talking about the ways that this administration is trying to bring some of the power centers under the thumb of the president. You and I, as you mentioned, met in law school, and we have always shared a faith in the power and potential of the law and respect for the rule of law. And the attacks on lawyers, I think, are especially dangerous, because if lawyers voluntarily disarm and capitulate, these lawyers threaten to undermine the entire justice system. Judges can't litigate cases themselves. They can only hear the cases that are brought before them by lawyers. I think that's one of the reasons why the ACLU and more than 10 other legal organizations who really span the ideological spectrum submitted amicus briefs in the lawsuits of Perkins Coie, Wilmer Hale, and Jenner and Block. And 4 different federal judges have found that the executive orders targeting them are manifestly illegal. But the courts are holding the line. But as we heard Lee mentioned, there are some challenges with this administration kind of obeying and abiding by that line that the courts are holding. And there's no denying that courts are under attack too. So given your leadership on the Senate Judiciary Committee, how do you respond to very valid fears of this administration contravening the rule of law and defying court orders, really showing no respect for the rule of law?
Well, I mean, so I do have a front row seat in many ways to the outrages of this administration on the Judiciary Committee. So let me just go in a little bit more detail, because the first lawyers they went after were inside the government. The first lawyers they went after were in the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. The first lawyers they went after were in the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Education. Everybody inside government that was focused on protecting certain fundamental rights was either fired or frankly relocated to other positions. And then I had lawyers from the Justice Department telling me that they were resigning because of what they were being told to do. That they were not now told to defend the rights of people, but to target trans children or target people to defend Christianity as opposed to defending the hate that's being seen the Muslim community or the Jewish community or other religious minorities. And so that was their first step. Then they continue to put pressure on the judiciary, not just defying court orders, but literally the president of the United States trolling judges that decided against them to the point where the Chief Justice had to reprimand this president. But we know that threats on the lives of our judges have shot up. In New Jersey, we had a justice years ago have someone go to her home, kill her son, and wound her husband. And now her son, whose name was Daniel Anderol, people are sending pizzas to the homes of federal judges in the name of her murdered son, Daniel Anderol, as if to intimidate judges. Then we get to what you're talking about, attacking law firms whose pro bono clients now are being abandoned, attacking law firms that are because of the clients they represented. So we are at a point of crisis, and I know that you know this intimately, and the actions of the ACLU in this case are not just extraordinary, but you all are standing in the breach. But we should all be on a state of heightened alarm. And you use the word fear, and I'm telling folks, this should be a time of fear. Fear is not bad. Fear is a necessary precondition to courage. You cannot have great courage if not for great fear. So in this time of great fear about the attacks on the judiciary, the attacks on lawyers, the attacks on law firms, the attacks on judges, this is a time that, yes, be afraid, but also to show our collective courage, which I am here right now, not just because of our friendship, not just because of great leaders I've had the chance to meet like Amal, but I am here because this is a time where the ACLU is vital. And if the least we do is support the resources to an organization like this, that is making a big, significant a gesture towards the preservation of our rights.
Thank you for saying that. I think the ACLU at this point is leaning into everything that makes up the fabric of the ACLU. We say that we are built for this moment, and I think that you're speaking to exactly why we are. And I agree with everything you've said about the attacks on the judiciary. There is the reason why the administration is targeting lawyers internally inside the government and externally. And that's because the judiciary and the legal system are such important and critical bulwarks to defending the constitutional order, to our system of checks and balances. And this administration is surely testing the waters and challenging the integrity and the independence of lawyers on both sides of the bench, targeting judges who rule against the president, as you said, in law firms, and lawyers for past representation of his political opponents or current representation, taking the side of issues with which he disagrees. But the legal community really does continue to show up each and every day, and courts are propping up the rule of law. They've halted the birthright citizenship executive order. They protected gender-affirming medical treatment for adolescents under 19. Thanks to some of the amazing work by Lee and others, blocked using the Alien Enemies Act to deport immigrants in New York and Texas. And one of the tactics is to politicize the court and to assign partisan intentions to judges that are working to constrain presidential power. But Republican and Democratic nominees alike have consistently ruled against these clear abuses of power. And we, not we, the ACLU, but we, the public, have a role to play to prop up the courts. It's very important that we hold tight and maintain our public trust and support of the courts and our judicial system, because the official question of whether Donald Trump has defied a court order is still playing out in the courts, and it's important that we not get ahead of the judges in these cases.
And can I just add to this, because again, every day you see these affronts. We see them in the immigration space every day, grievous things. Like even the Cato Institute saying today that over 50 of the people that they sent to El Salvador were in our country legally, had a right to be here, and were being abducted. But something that I've worked with the ACLU on is police accountability, police transparency, police professionalism. In fact, I've worked with police unions and police organizations on common sense reforms. But we have a stunning reality right now where in places like Louisville, Kentucky, where Breonna Taylor was killed by police, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where as we come up on the 5th-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, there were pattern and practice investigations, consent decrees in those cities and other cities in process. And the Justice Department abruptly stopped all of them, despite the findings of line attorneys, career professionals who found serious cases of pattern and practices of discrimination. At a time where public safety is at a premium, police accountability and public trust in the police departments is vital. And when the federal government, after extensive research and investigation, has found abuses of people's fundamental civil rights, for them to abruptly say, we're not going to pursue this anymore, further injures the public trust and creates an environment not only where fundamental rights are being violated, but where ultimately trust in our institutions are being undermined. And when the institutions of a democracy are under assault and trust goes down, more and more people turn out of fear, out of strong men professing that they'll protect you. They then turn to more authoritarian type leaders. And so this is the erosion of our democracy that's going on, that's being felt by folks who are having their rights violated. They're being felt by folks who are seeing the intimidation that are being felt by folks who are being threatened. And this is, again, why we all have to be doing something that we didn't do before in the cause of our country and the fundamental rights that are sacred to all Americans.
I want to follow up on that in 2 different ways. So one, in mentioning police accountability, it raises some of the issues and challenges at the state and local level. And there are certainly limits on federal authority. Can you talk a little bit about the role that you think state and local authorities should be playing or can play in fighting back and pushing back and holding the line?
So God, I want to tell you this from a law enforcement perspective. When I was back in Newark, talking with Newark police officers, they were telling me how upset they were that their community, our community where I live, my community, is getting less safe because the immigrant community is afraid to report crimes. Our state AG told me a story about literally a witness in a vicious assault was seized by ICE and was scheduled for deportation. They'd already been in the process of getting what's called a U visa to protect them from deportation. But literally, ICE was not allowing a witness to a crime, a victim themselves, to help to apprehend someone who's perpetrating this crime. So I guess what I'm saying is that local leaders who are complicit in the undermining of the rights and securities of their community, that is paving the road, not only to the larger undermining of our democracy, but paving the road to chaos within their communities. The rule of law is vital that we protect those fundamental rights. And so right now, to me, I think local leaders are a bulwark against them. And again, I saw it in the paper today, and my friend, the mayor of Newark, who was arrested in the most outrageous abuse of power, was reprimanded by a federal judge for the abuses and the unjust arrest of Ras Baraka, the mayor of the city of Newark. And now we're seeing it again with the federal government now bringing charges against my congresswoman that represents me. And so I feel so grateful for many of the local leaders. We saw the Maine's governor go toe-to-toe with the President of the United States over protecting vital programs for trans youth. We've seen many local leaders stand up against the kind of assaults on free speech rights in their communities, against the disappearing of citizens or people that are due their due process. So I just want folks to know there are many levels of our activism, but supporting those leaders who are standing up, often at risk to themselves, is really important as well. And I really appreciate that question.
I think the federal government can feel like a Goliath, so it's important to hear the examples of folks at the state and local level who are stepping up and setting limits to that power and using their own power. So much about this moment can feel frustrating, and that's true about the nature of progress. As they say, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that advances are always met with retrenchment. And even if progress isn't as fast or as linear as we want, we know that we can have an impact here in this moment. And something that can have a more immediate impact in this moment is how we engage with our elected officials. I'd love to hear your advice, especially for those ACLU members who are joining us from states or districts that are more overtly hostile to civil rights and civil liberties. What impact can constituent calls and public pressure have on elected leaders, both on those that may support our efforts to protect civil rights and civil liberties and just need that extra nudge, and those who are less supportive of our work and our agenda?
Well, first of all, I just want to give a lot of credit to the ACLU. I've had a long career in public service, and I always tell people, if everybody in your coalition agrees on everything, your coalition is not big enough. I've been in coalition with the ACLU since I was a city council person, but Amal and I don't agree on 1,000 out of 1,000 things. But the power of the ACLU in my life has always been engaging with me, sometimes in tough conversations, but in dialogue, by making sure we are having the hard conversations and pressing each other on the important issues. So I just first want to say this. I don't want to just throw Republicans under the bus. A whole bunch of Democrats really need to hear from you. As I said, that my constituency pushed me to take greater action. So I just want to say how important it is, Democrat, Republican, Independent, for you to be engaged with your local leaders, your state leaders, and your federal leaders. I learn every single day from my constituents in my state. My compassion and empathy is expanded by people who heroically share their stories with me. The ACLU breaking down issues for me and helping my staff working together, it is so vital. But when it comes to people, if you're in a state where in many ways, your legislators or your senators or congresspeople are being complicit in everything that's going on, do not underestimate what your phone calls, do not underestimate what your letters, what your posts online mean, because it does. Your voice does matter. Your voice does make a difference. And you may not be the one that pushes that person over, but you can be a part of that chorus that ultimately convinces someone that they're doing wrong and that they're on the wrong side of history. Engage in the process. Do not just say, I have these 2 right-wing Republican senators or this right-wing Republican conservative, they'll never listen to me. That is not a permission to not be out there pushing and protesting and doing things that make a difference. It is vital right now. And again, I have seen time and time again in Washington how the voices of people in communities across this country who are willing to speak up in outrage about what's going on actually change the policies of Republican senators and even a Republican president and ultimately stop them.
I think it's important. Thank you. We need that reminder. You've heard that at the ACLU, we're calling on our activist community to lean into their power and take action. So for instance, to join a Know Your Rights training on immigrants' rights, which is having a great impact. Tom Homan, head of border enforcement, complained about how disruptive they've been to planned ICE raids and mass deportation. In February, we hosted another town hall with 14 state attorneys generals. And just like the law firms, just like Harvard and the Big Ten, it's amazing to see state officials stand in their power and to link arms in fighting back. And the ACLU's C4 advocacy arm partners with state executive, state legislative, and municipal leaders to enact pro-civil liberties policies. And we're calling it our Firewall for Freedom campaign. And since January, we've seen 26 firewall policy wins. And this includes the sweeping executive order that was signed by North Carolina Governor Josh Stein that supports access and privacy for abortion, contraception, and reproductive health care. And wins like this give me hope. The work that the ACLU is doing, that our attorneys are doing, our advocates are doing each and every day, gives me hope. And every moment for justice has been powered by hope. The belief that no matter how deep the injustice, change is possible, something better is possible. And if Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman could have hope, and if Fannie Lou Hamer and John Lewis could have hope, then certainly we can have hope. Hope fuels action, hope fuels dissent, hope fuels resistance. So, Senator Booker, what gives you hope? And when you feel your hold on hope loosening, as it inevitably will from time to time, and I can sometimes feel my hold on hope loosening, how do you cultivate that hope? How do you re-spark it and renew it?
Well, I'm just going to stipulate right now that your advocacy, your demands, your legal work, the way you all have shaped public policy from the federal to the local level, that's hope in action. But I just want to take your question seriously to tell you that I've been broken many times. I mean, look, I'm blessed because I live in one of the greatest communities I could ever imagine. I live in the Central Ward of Newark, New Jersey. We don't mistake wealth with worth in our community. We are at or below the poverty line in my neighborhood, but the people I meet every day are heroes of hope. And in my community, and the strength and the resiliency, how much change we've made over the last 25 years in our community. But there are people that I've talked about and written about. And one of my best ever champions, we've now named the street up around the corner from me after her, was a woman named Miss Virginia Jones, who's was the tenant president of some high-rise projects called Brick Towers that I lived in for almost a decade. And they were really rough projects by the time I went in there. When we were in law school, I was coming out and helping that tenant association sue their slumlord, who eventually got convicted in federal court for his crimes against that community. But I found out that her son was murdered in the lobby of the building in which I lived in the 80s. And I was stunned. Like, how could this incredible woman, who I knew where she worked, and she could have lived in more decent housing, but she stayed in that community. I remember asking her why. And this tough as nails, this incredible, loving woman looked at me and she goes, "Why do I still live here?" And I go, "Yes, Miss Jones." She's like, "Why am I still in apartment 5A?" And I go, "Yes, Miss Jones." She goes, "Why am I still the tenant president of these buildings since the day they were built in 1969? And I'm like, "Yes, Miss Jones, why?" And she looked at me with a grin and said, "Because I'm in charge of Homeland Security." You know, she didn't need a presidential appointment. She didn't need a cabinet position. She just loved so much. She taught me that hope ultimately is the active conviction that despair will not have the last word. She was going to have the last word. And my neighborhood is full of people where life has often given the most difficult blows, but yet still somehow bruised and battered, struggling, they still find a way out of no way to hold a community together, to love on folks, to lift people up, and to keep on going. So this is one of those times where all of us are feeling weary and overwhelmed, where all of us are angry, where we turn on the TV and says, what's going to be today? And there are going to be losses. There are going to be times where we feel defeated even, but we can never give up. This country so desperately needs heroes, and heroism is not a person in a high office or a title. Heroism will always be found in the community, will always be found in the streets, will always be found by those Americans who don't give up in fighting for America, even when they don't feel like America is showing up for them. The words that I've leaned on a long time are those of the great poet Langston Hughes, who said, "America never was America to me, but I swear this oath America will be. Those people who never lose their faith in this nation, who keep loving her and hoping her back to health. Those are the heroes we need. And I know the people listening to this session right now, you all are the leaders, you all the heroes of hope that we really need right now.
Thank you so much for that. It really is a blessing and a gift to be alive in this moment and have the opportunity to fight for justice and to owe that to all of the people who fought and led and survived and never gave up before us. And we are really our ancestors' wildest dreams, and we need to step into this moment.
And Deborah, can I interrupt you? Because I remember in law school, I just had a memory, and I actually called your husband.
I'm afraid you're going to tell a bad story now.
No, I promise you I will not tell. I will not. We have mutually assured destruction from our days in our 20s. But this is actually called Rich up to ask him about this, because we used to go to Greenhaven Prison, and it was the first time I'd ever been, these institutions that take hundreds of millions of our dollars to warehouse human beings. And I remember going in there, and in Greenhaven, we would sit and have really deep discussions with a lot of the men that were there. Some of them were there for life with no parole. And I remember just sort of being so affected by these men who were lifers, who would tell me that they got up every day with a sense of purpose, with a sense of mission. And they would say that our mission is that young people that are coming into this place that will leave, we're going to do everything we can while they're in here to work with them so they never, ever come back. And so that they can go out in the communities and take some of our light with them and share it with the world. And so here, the people that were convicted and condemned, they still found hope and purpose in serving other people. If they could muster that, I got to witness that at the dawn of my career, to see that folks that no matter how deep under a prison they were put, they still found a way to shine a light into the world. If they can do that, I hope that other people who are facing, and that's to me, so many examples of unjust incarceration we saw together. I'm hoping those who are condemned unjustly, or who are convicted, or who are thrown away by this society into these institutions, if they can still show their humanity and their love and not be dimmed by their circumstance, then we too can learn from them.
That story reminds me of something that a mentor of mine says to me all the time, that we are all standing in the shade of trees we did not plant and drinking from wells we did not dig.
Yes.
And so our responsibility, no matter where we stand, is to get up every day and plant more trees and dig more wells.
Mm.
And I want to thank you for today's conversation, for reminding us of our obligations, of reminding us of the power that we have. I want to thank you for the push to meet this moral moment. And again, a reminder that we have an obligation to do that. To everyone who joined us today, thank you. And please sit tight, because I'm going to ask AJ to rejoin us to remind us again what we can do today together to fight for justice.
Thank you so much, President Archer and Senator Booker, for that powerful conversation and for ending us on a note of hope. Having this experience that I have often at the ACLU, where I am present for a conversation and I did not know personally how deeply my spirit needed to hear it. And so I'm so grateful to the both of you for bringing us reminders of the people in our communities, the everyday people who are our heroes of hope, as Senator Booker lifted up. Thank y'all both so much. And so as I reflect on everything we've done to come together and fight back over the past 4 months, I can't help but feel some real hope. Yes, it has been grueling, but we have strength and we have strategy on our side, and we have something to fight for. So as Deborah and Senator Booker shared, this is a moral moment. And as we all know, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And I was reminded just yesterday that it only bends if we bend that arc, if we push it. So thank you for pushing us and pushing with us in this critical time. The power of the people is always greater than the people in power. So before we close out, let me remind everyone watching of the most important actions you can take today to stay engaged in this fight. Please do join People Power Activists Network. Text your family, your friends right now, and ask them to sign up at aclu.org/volunteer. When you sign up, you'll join one of our powerful volunteer teams. You're going to receive an email with everything you need to get started right away. Here's the truth, y'all. Organized people will always defeat organized chaos. And make no mistake, that's exactly what this administration is orchestrating and betting on: complete and utter organized chaos. So let's continue to fight back together and say, not on our watch. Please do join us today at aclu.org/volunteer. And so as we wrap up, I'll say it again: the devil works hard, but the ACLU works harder. And so we're going to get back to work. And I just want to thank again Senator Cory Booker for joining us today, and to my brilliant ACLU colleagues, Deborah, Amol, Maribel, and Lee. Thank you again to everyone watching for tuning in today and for everything you do to fuel this fight. Take good care of yourself, and please do take care of each other. We'll see you next time.